Welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Paulicki. He's Jacob Liberta. We're a Minnesota sports podcast, so please hit that subscribe button if you're a big-time Minnesota sports fan. Give this video a like because your Minnesota Timberwolves are halfway through the season and they're still hanging around the 500 mark, right in the thick of it in the Western Conference playoff race as they currently stand the 9th seed, but they do play the Knicks tonight. Based off how that game goes, they could jump back up to the 7th seed, and they're within reach of the 6th seed and really even the 5 seed. So what we're going to be talking about today is, should the Minnesota Timberwolves make any trades before the February 10th trade deadline? We're about 3 weeks out from that right now. It's tough to say, honestly, just because the teams have been playing pretty well for the most part. Granted, at a 500 record, it's about an average team, but that's such a high mark for the Timberwolves franchise that it's almost like you don't want to mess with it because you really feel like they're building something special here. So what are your thoughts on if the Timberwolves should make any moves here before the trade deadline?
Yeah, I certainly think the bench could be improved. I think that's probably the one area you might want to add. But at the same time, I kind of like this gel that we got here among the guys that are currently on the roster, and you don't really want to mess up that team chemistry that feels like building. So I'm kind of leaning towards the way of no, because I don't know how much better we can really get with an acquisition that we'd put on the bench. I think there are certainly options out there we could explore that probably won't cost us as much as the marquee names being thrown around like Ben Simmons or something. But
yeah,
I think there's certainly room to improve. But at the same time, I don't know if that would really benefit us in the long haul as much as I'd like to think we can win this year. I don't know if that's really that realistic. I know we can hang with the best of them, but at the same time, the consistency still lacks. So I feel like we're still another year away or two from being like a serious contender in the Western Conference and actually making noise and making win now moves. So I think we could hold our cards a little bit. But again, this bench certainly leaves something to be desired. You notice games like, let's say Jalen Noel is out, and then it feels like all the wheels fall off. There's no facilitator out there, no guy that can create his own shot, and then it just goes down the tubes once we take our starters off the floor. So it's certainly worth thinking about, but I'm leaning away of no. How about you, Bailey?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, and I love that you brought up Jalen Noel, because I was going to say basically over the last 3 weeks or so, ever since the Wolves had that COVID outbreak, Jalen Noel's basically proven himself to be the best sixth man candidate on this team. And that's insane to think about, because going into the year, you're like, well, maybe Patrick Beverley, but he's been in a starter role. And then you get, Malik Beasley's easily a sixth man candidate, but he hasn't been playing very well. And so Jalen Noel's been huge. And I wouldn't want to make a trade that would mess up his potential role as the sixth man, because with his ability to score and create shots and facilitate, I just think he's the perfect guy to be that sixth man role. And I don't know if you want to go make a deal for a player that's going to come in and kind of take that away from him, therefore reducing his role, because I think he's such a weapon. But at the same time, the only I'm out on Ben Simmons completely. I don't want to have to give up what it's going to take to get him, including draft picks, which it'd be kind of nice to hold on to our draft pick this year, because we'll probably be picking somewhere in the middle of the first round, I would imagine. So I wouldn't want to trade for anybody that impacts the starting lineup, because clearly we still have the best starting five in the league based on net rating. I think Vanderbilt's a nice compliment in there as the power forward. He's done a fantastic job, especially over the last month or two.
Oh, yeah.
And, the only thing I can really think of that would maybe improve this team, and I'm still willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him a full season, is Malik Beasley. I think he's probably the one guy I'd be willing to move to say you could trade him to like Portland and get a Robert Covington in return. Sure, Covington's not the sharpshooter that Beasley is, but he can still knock down threes. He can play a variety of positions. He can defend basically every position. So he's more of a 3-and-D guy that's not a sharpshooter like Beasley is, but I feel like he'd fit in better, to say, with this bench unit, and he could just kind of blend into any role. Obviously, he's tight with Cat. He's been on the Wolves before. He likes Minnesota, so that's an intriguing option for me. But as good of a shooter as Malik Beasley's been for the Wolves outside of this season, I think I'm still willing to give him a full season, see if he can try and turn this thing around. If not, then maybe you can reevaluate in the offseason, which is what I think they should really do anyways. I'm willing to ride this entire season out and then kind of, after the season's over, kind of go back, reevaluate what was good, what wasn't good, how you can improve, and go from there. Because I think, like you said, this team isn't going to make a run at it this season, and maybe not even next season. But within the next couple of years, if they can keep this core together, I think they have a real good shot. So I think you stand pat at this trade deadline, and then just evaluate your options after the season.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that's a great point to bring up Beasley. I think he'd probably be the number one trade chip we'd have that we'd be willing to part with, I think, being that his cap number is so high and that he's kind of been underperforming this year, and you feel like he can get better with that money. Or maybe a guy like TP too, Torian Prince.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly worth thinking about too. But Beasley, I think I like what you have to say, and I have to agree with just riding it out with him. Historically, he's a pretty good three-point shooter, so if he can find that form again, I think that's really what we need most off this bench. If we can get him back up 38, 39% from three, that'd be huge for this team. It'd be such it'd be explosive off the bench for us, because I know that's usually where we lack is just guys who can score efficiently, really, when we have the starters take a breather. So I think if Beasley can just find his form a little bit more, it seems like he's kind of coming on as of late, but like really recently, only a few games. We got to see if it's like a sustained stretch or not. But if he can find it, then I'm feeling good again about him and the direction this team is going with this current group, and just kind of seeing what happens this year and then reevaluating in the offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, I mean, the size thing is still a little bit of a concern, but with how good Vanderbilt's been rebounding, especially offensive rebounds, I mean, he's really helping us out in that regard. And his spacing's improving too, to the point where it's making life easier for Cat. And Cat's really been on a tear lately too. I think he deserves to be in the All-Star game, making life easier for Anthony Edwards getting to the rim. So there's not many things I'd want to change about this team. You know, it'd be nice to maybe have a true backup point guard off the bench, just because I think Jalen Noel is more of like a combo guard type player. But at the same time, then that would also cut out from a guy like Malik Beasley. Jaden McDaniels they've had playing as a wing player, so you'd have to factor that in as well. But in terms of like having to move a guy like McDaniels and potentially like Beasley to get a guy like Miles Turner, who apparently now has a foot injury.
Yeah, he does.
So
he's gonna be out past the trade deadline, so you'll have to see that. But
so I'm guessing that would completely diminish his trade value if he even gets traded at this point. Can you even trade an injured player in the NBA? I'm not sure if you can.
I don't know, really. I'm not sure if there's some agreement there where they could like move him, and then everybody's understanding and aware of his health concerns. I guess there's medical reports and whatnot.
Right, because I would maybe consider it, like, if it's just a straight up swap for Beasley and you can basically trade the contracts, then I'd probably do it. But outside of that, I don't think I want to make a move. And like Torian Prince has been largely disappointing, and he's got a nice contract you could throw in for a trade too. But at the same time, he has these flashes where it's like, man, he could be a really impactful player for 7-8 minutes a game. Like, you don't need him to play a lot because he's legitimately the 10th man on this team. You can kind of alternate between him and Okogie for who's truly the 10th man. But especially like when it comes down to the playoff time and when it's time to make a move, Chris Finch is going to tighten this rotation to 8 guys anyways, I think. So 8 or 9 guys, because Naz Reid's going to get some run too. But it seems like his minutes have been decreasing a little bit. So I don't know, man. I think the move is to stand pat. And I'm excited to where this Wolves team can go, because this is a completely homegrown team outside of, like, you know, trading for Malik Beasley and trading for D'Angelo Russell.
Yep, and then Torian Prince too. But
yeah.
like you said, but of the core guys, you think about it, it's kind of remarkable when you think we've actually assembled this team of our own guys. Usually, you won't think a Wolves team would be able to do that, because you got obviously Ant and Cat, former #1 overall picks, Jaden McDaniels, former first-round pick, Jalen Noel, I think former second-round pick a few years ago. I mean, there's a lot of talent there. Gerson Rosas and company has done a good job of assembling roster talent here. It's just now it's finally coming together, and everybody's evolving into good players that we could have envisioned them becoming, and that's very exciting. And I know the Wolves, it can be hit or miss. Almost every night you watch them, like, they can come out with low energy and just kind of get beat around even by a bad team, but then some nights will come out and play at the best of the best and look like they belong. So it's just kind of a wild ride. You just got to enjoy it while it lasts, I guess.
Yeah, the inconsistencies of a young team, it's frustrating, but at the same time, it's so much better than it has been.
Yeah, it's just a process that happens.
Exactly. But you can almost trust it just because you know, like, Chris Finch is just a good coach. Like, you can tell the way the players respond to him. And I know I keep harping on that, but it's truly incredible to see the Timberwolves with a competent head coach. Like,
I know that's amazing. It sounds like a low bar, but at the same time, for this team, like, that's a pretty hard bar to reach, I guess, because everybody we've brought in here feels like it's just not a flop.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I said earlier, please be sure to hit the like button and hit that subscribe button on this channel as well. Give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram, and leave your comments below. Do you think Timberwolves should make a trade? Do you think they should stand pat? And if you do think they should make a trade, who are you targeting as the trade deadline approaches? So thanks for watching.